Hey everyone, welcome to Connor and Ryan's video for UGBA 157. Today we're going to be talking about our partnership together with the Undergraduate Real Estate Club and our findings from the class. And we're really excited to share what we've learned and how we applied it to our partnership and to the Undergraduate Real Estate Club.
Yeah, so to begin, I think it would be best to begin with one of the two or three seminal books of the course, which was the Leadership Challenge. One of the most effective and applicable lessons that we took away from it was the lesson of enabling others. Our club, if anything, is all about enabling others. We are a professional club that seeks to bring people interested in real estate or at various levels within the real estate industry to the next level. And so learning about how to lead them there through an environment of safety, an environment where we give them the network, the connections, the tools, whatever it may be, to bring them to that next level was very interesting to read about and also very interesting to actually do throughout our semester this year.
I agree, and I also think that as leaders in the club, we have to lead by example. Instead of just sharing our vision with people and saying everything that we think we should do, we should lead by example in our dealings with corporate sponsors, guest speakers, lecturers, and the workshops we lead. So basically, if we're going to say that Excel is really important in becoming an analyst, and that's what's really important in interviews, me and Connor actually hosted a financial modeling workshop. So that shows that we have these skills. We used them and learned them last summer in our internships, and we're going to use them during the Excel test for interviews. And also leading by example is when we are scheduling guest speakers, we have to be professional. We have to respond to emails in a professional manner on time. And this really sets the precedent for what we expect members to do with regard to our club, to RSVP to our events rapidly and show commitment by coming to all our events.
I agree. One of the lessons that actually ties into that very well was the lesson of challenging the process. When we entered the club was 15 members, loosely organized in whatever goals they had. This was coming down from a peak of 60 members, a very effective organization, a very well-led organization. So when we went in, we had to challenge the process. They did not have the leadership that we wanted to bring to it. And so what we did was we looked at what we wanted the club to be. We wanted this to be a place where any level of interest in real estate could find what they need, whether it be the advanced professionals like us or new freshmen who maybe they have a family member or a friend in the real estate industry. We can answer their questions or take them to the next level. For instance, we both created executive positions in the club, like director of marketing, and we also got rid of positions on the executive team. We reformulated the club in order to better achieve the goals, the vision that we share for what it can be.
I agree. And also something that we really touched upon in lecture was inspiring a shared vision and thinking right to left. Having end goals and a vision for where our club should go, and then working backwards from right to left into the small steps that the leadership team needs to take in order to succeed. And that's exactly what we did. As the president, I had a clear vision for the club. It was going to be a resource for members to get jobs. We were going to work with recruiters at the biggest firms and send emails with job opportunities over the listserv. Another thing was we were going to give hard skills to our members by hosting Excel workshops and guest speaking events where professionals from San Francisco in brokerage, finance, and private equity, all focusing in real estate, would come and guest lecture about their industry, how to break in, and any tips they had for members. And we also had a resume workshop sponsored by HFF, where 3 HFF employees came and helped members with their resumes. And I really think that we fulfilled our vision. We thought right to left. We were going to be the premier club on campus for students pursuing a career in real estate, and we executed that by giving them hard skills, job opportunities. Actually, 3 of our members are working for the guest speakers who came over the summer. The members are working for them over the summer, and we're really looking forward to establishing relationships with these companies.
Yeah, moving forward from more of a club focus to between us, we found Kim Cameron's book on positive leadership absolutely fascinating. One of our favorite sections was on positive relationships. So a positive relationship, as defined by Cameron, was about each individual bringing the drive, the best out of the other, And that is, if anything, what we are. That typifies what we try to bring to our relationship. A positive relationship is what we believe to be a good partnership. We push each other. We try to inform each other. We try to do whatever we can to make the other person and, an extension, the partnership, as good as it can be. Our goal of increasing the effectiveness, the viability of our real estate club will only be achieved if we ourselves are at our peak. And so I would consider our relationship, if anything, positive. I think we have each grown immensely. For instance, we both got into Hawks this semester after nearly 2 years of work and effort. We also, we achieved leadership positions in the club of the field that we wish to pursue. There's a lot of examples on the inside that we could point to where we have helped each other achieve exactly what we wanted to.
Definitely. And within positive leadership, I personally found positive communication to be the most important. Even before I started this class, I always thought leadership teams and high-performance teams really need to communicate effectively. That's the basis of everything. If everyone on the team knows what everyone's responsibility is and works together, that's really how success is achieved. And within positive communication, the way to facilitate this is the positivity ratio that's mentioned in the book. Connor and I actually did an experiment with the leadership meetings. The first meeting, we didn't tell anybody that we were doing it. We recorded how many positive comments we had to how many critical comments we had, and we actually had a negative positivity ratio, which we found to be pretty accurate because most of our leadership meetings focus on what we can improve. And then after the meeting, we sent out an article on the positivity ratio and the importance of giving kudos and positive feedback like we do in class, where we recommend and share with everyone what everyone has done well. And within the second meeting, it was much better. Our positivity ratio was 2-1, which is much closer to Kim Cameron's estimate of 3-1. And this really just made the meeting happier to be in because there's a lot of great things that happen in UREC, and I think they go unnoticed because we're so focused on success that we're always trying to fix what is wrong. And instead, we started the meeting off with everyone saying what they really like, and that went amazing. We really had great feedback from the leadership team, and going forward, I think this is something that the leadership team is going to solidify and do at every meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. One other thing I'd mention from Cameron was on positive meaning. And this was one of the more difficult and more interesting lessons that we applied from the class because we will tell you we are a pre-professional club. He even mentioned how one of the major purposes of our club is to get someone a job. And so positive meaning is all about the difference between a job, a career, and a calling. And we had to think very critically about how we could frame and how we could show people that real estate is more than a job and a career, and it could potentially be a calling. And so we actually worked very hard for this. We brought in individuals that work in low-income multifamily housing in Oakland. So they work in the large apartment complexes in dangerous parts of the city so that many other companies would not venture into. They worked there because they could not only make a living, but they could make a real difference. They were providing quality, affordable housing to a lot of people that otherwise would not be able to have it. And so beyond that, we were also giving our individuals articles or news clippings about some ways in which real estate was helping the world around us. Because real estate is often so hidden, the transactions, the movements of the industry are not so easy to see with the naked eye, especially from someone not within the industry. It often goes unnoticed, and especially the lot of great work that goes unnoticed. And so we try to convey through our passion for the industry what real estate can be, the good, the philanthropic, the higher order things that can be achieved through real estate. And so that was very interesting. I actually think we ended up doing a very good job of it. It'll be hard to tell in this semester alone, or maybe even the next semester, but over time, as we talk to people and talk about their views on real estate, I think it'll actually be very telling.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, and I'd also like to maybe transition a little bit and talk about more of our partnership, because that's something that also really developed throughout this class. And in our study of co-leaders in the class, we studied 2 really important partnerships that me and Connor really related to. The first was Steve Ballmer and Bill Gates. Steve Ballmer, basically this socially adept guy, really the leader and the first business executive at Microsoft who grew the company in new markets. And then you had Bill Gates, who was an introvert, a little eccentric, bored with his undergraduate classes, so he took graduate classes and eventually moved out to Silicon Valley, where Steve Ballmer was at Stanford. And what we really learned was Bill Gates was just obsessed with creating new markets and new technologies, and Steve Ballmer would find ways to dominate these industries. And what me and Connor find is that once we find the area that we want to expand UREC in, which this year was pretty much career section, before the listserv that all the members get, the emails, did not have any job postings. And we thought, hey, if we're going to be the premier real estate club on campus, we're going to send these members jobs. And we really grew as a partnership because we were able to identify areas which we needed to improve the club and attack and dominate those areas. And another partnership that we want to look at is Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett. Their investment philosophy as a partnership is completely cohesive. They both agree that leverage is bad, and they want to be significantly less leveraged than their competitors. So they tend to lever their investments only 10 to 15%, while their competitors are 25 to 30%. And this really makes for their conglomerate. Berkshire Hathaway has grown over the past 50 years, slowly but steady pace, and now Warren Buffett's one of the richest men in the United States. And there's definitely been other hedge funds / private equity guys who have had great times, maybe even better than Buffett. But in the long run, he wins because he doesn't take these inordinate risks, which is the same with Charlie Munger. They are completely in agreement with their partnership. And they also keep 20% of their fund in cash so they can be bulls in a bear market. So when the market turns sour, they have 20% of their portfolio to play on the offensive. And with little leverage, they are not worried. It's not a stressful period because without this high leverage, they're able to act offensive and buy up assets at a discount rather than try and liquidate their entire portfolio when the market's down.
Agreed. The dynamics between the 2 partnerships is very interesting. One other partnership that I'd like to talk about would be Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. Steve Wozniak actually went to Berkeley, but one of the most interesting things, especially about Jobs, was the way in which he put stakes in the ground, like we talked about in the class. He did not accept anything less than perfection. He brought Apple from mediocrity or nothing to the largest company in the world twice. And that's testament to the power of his vision. He didn't care about what anyone else was doing. He knew what he wanted to do, and he was willing to put stakes in the ground in order to achieve it. A lot of what's been talked about with Steve Jobs is his temperament, how angry he was, how unsatisfied he was with work unless it was 100%. But all of that is really his drive to meet those stakes. He was not going to compromise on what he had accepted as the only satisfactory option. And I think for us, that was super telling because we've already created the stakes, or some of them at least, for next semester, including the quantity, the quality of the speakers we want for next semester, the type of recruitment, the people we want to recruit next semester. We have a very good core right now, so we want to see what other people potentially in the area of Berkeley, students of course, but what other types of students in Berkeley could be interested, maybe outside of Haas, maybe outside of our normal comfort zone, etc. So we want to find our own stakes so we can be uncompromising and, like Jobs, achieve things that most people wouldn't consider possible.
I definitely agree. And before we talk about our takeaways and goals, I think it's important to address one of the big parts of the class, which was our Myers-Briggs types. Me and Connor are both ENTJs, which is the commander, the lead executive. And being the same Myers-Briggs type, it was hard to see how people feel. You know, that's one of the things we struggled with, was understanding people's feelings and how to relate to them. And going forward, I think with the elections for the fall and next year, we are going to have to evaluate who we are bringing onto our high performance team. We really want people of different types and personalities, so we can address all the issues that are going to come up, and we think that'll make us the best and most dynamic team.
Yeah, to add on to that, we actually had a very interesting experience in class. One of the most recent classes where we had to diagram how we would solve different problems that rose in our partnership or our project. And we did 4 of them. We put them down. We diagrammed them. Each were like 3 steps because we have a very ordered and efficient way of solving problems. But one of the people in the class next to us pointed out that none of our problems had to do with personal problems. None of them were an individual that felt underutilized in the membership of the club. None of them were a hostile conversation of the exec team. Those types of problems don't stay at the top of our minds the way that like funding problem would, or a speaker not showing up problem. We tend to focus on the impersonal far more, and so it's something that we've discussed and we're going to try to work on in the future, but definitely part of us both being ENTJs. It helps a lot because ENTJs typically don't work well with people that work at a slower speed, and we definitely work at 100% one speed all the time, and so it makes us an effective partnership, but almost a more linear partnership where we need to add some personal aspects. And one thing I'd add before we go to the takeaways is kind of our goals for next semester. I think we probably have 3 main ones. One being we want to continue the culture that we have tried to instill this semester. We have a culture of people that are committed to the club, committed to real estate, want to help one another, want to help each other get internships, learn in the club, learn about whatever they would need for their internships, etc. A second would be graduates. One of the ways we really think this club is going to grow, especially for the effectiveness of its members, is for graduates of the club to reach out, donate their time, their expertise, their connections in order to help current members. We actually had some speakers this semester that were previous alumni of our club, and they actually, one of them ran the Excel modeling workshop we did. So it's things like that where people can bring a lot, because they obviously have in-depth knowledge that we currently do not. They can bring a ton to the club and a ton for the future. And then I'd say the third goal would be continuing to try to express the different avenues that real estate can put you towards that are not necessarily only about monetary compensation. Harkening back to real estate as philanthropic, real estate as more than just the transactions. Real estate includes political questions of zoning and things such as that. Real estate is so impactful. We see it everywhere and find it so fascinating, and we want to bring that to our club. And so those would be the main 3 goals that I would point out.
Definitely. And I think the takeaways from the class really relate specifically to me and Connor's personal partnership as opposed to our project. Connor and I really seek to understand people. We want to know what motivates them, what fires them up, what gets them excited, how do they like to be complimented. An exercise we did in class was, how do you like to be complimented? How do you like to receive feedback? And that's so important because everyone likes to see it a different way. As we discussed, some people, like a pat on the back or like to be mentioned in front of their peers. Others like small gifts, and they would rather not be mentioned in front of everyone because it makes them nervous. And then also what triggers people. What makes them upset? You can't tell people to calm down when they're in a panic attack.
Totally.
And we really think that if we can avoid triggering people in our interactions, no matter how upset we are, if we remain calm and, know what triggers them and don't do that, because that's only going to make